Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so today we're tackling a reality that honestly drives so many website owners completely up the wall. WordPress hosting security in 2026. You've probably spent a ton of time obsessing over security plugins, super strong passwords, keeping everything updated, but here's the thing. True bulletproof security, it actually starts deep, deep beneath your WordPress dashboard. We're talking server level.
I mean, it's incredibly frustrating, right? You did everything by the book. You installed that highly rated security plugin, you enabled two-factor authentication, you literally generated a 30-character password that looks like absolute gibberish. Yet somehow you still wake up to find your site defaced. Or worse, your host suspends your account because it's mysteriously blasting out spam. Like, how does that even happen? Well, it happens because of invisible threats. Threats operating in a dark zone that your security plugins simply cannot see. To really get why this happens, we have to look at the sheer scale of the playing field right now. WordPress powers a massive 43% of the entire web. It is absolutely dominant. But, as you know, that massive market share makes it a massive target. It is literally the single most probed application on the internet. And the attacks we're seeing in 2026, they aren't just some lone hacker in a dark hoodie typing away. No, we're dealing with relentless automated bot armies. And the crucial detail here is that these bots are aiming right at the server first. They're looking for structural cracks before they even bother looking at your specific site. So we need to totally shift our mental model here. Real hosting security isn't just about what plugins you have running inside WordPress. It's all about those server-level controls. We're talking per-account isolation, network firewalls, hardened PHP handling, dedicated IPs, the whole shebang. This is all the heavy lifting happening quietly in the background, neutralizing threats before a malicious request ever even reaches your site's code. Because if you rely solely on your dashboard, you've got these massive blind spots. Think about it. Plugins live one layer too high. They only wake up after WordPress is already loaded. That leaves you wide open to 3 hidden failure points. First up, massive bot floods. These just exhaust your server resources before a plugin can even blink. Second, the neighbor problem. This is when a completely different, totally separate account on your shared server gets breached. And third, shared IP reputation. Imagine a stranger on your server sends out a mountain of spam, your shared IP gets blacklisted, and suddenly your perfectly legitimate business emails are going straight to everyone's spam folder. Not great. Let's zoom in on that neighbor problem for a second, because it's a big one. Standard shared hosting without isolation, it's basically like living in a massive apartment building where none of the interior doors have locks. If a bad actor breaks into a vulnerable neighbor's apartment, well, they have the run of the place. They can literally walk across the shared file system and harvest your databases too. But if you use a modern setup, something like Cloud Linux combined with CageFS, it acts like a fortress. Every single apartment is completely 100% sealed off. A breach stays contained exactly where it started. And that sealing off, that is what we call account isolation. Using tech like CageFS means the server places every single account inside its own virtualized file system. So from inside your designated cage, it's like the other accounts on the machine don't even exist. Why is this absolutely crucial? Because a compromised neighbor literally cannot read your configuration files. They can't find your WP config file, they can't swipe your database credentials, they can't even see your files. It completely shuts down the exact mechanism that turns one single hack site into 10. To really wrap our heads around the scale of this, check this out. Based on data from Q1 of 2026, the average low-traffic site hosted on AHosting saw over 50 brute force attempts blocked by the server firewall. Over 50, just trying to kick the front door in. And remember, that's just a low-traffic site. Higher traffic sites get hit exponentially harder. Now sure, a login plugin could theoretically try to block those 50 attempts, but it would have to load PHP and drain your database connections every single time. It would eat your resources alive. A server firewall, on the other hand, drops that garbage traffic at the network edge, silently, before PHP even thinks about spinning up. So what we're looking at is a very clear division of labor between your host and your application. The host is there to do the heavy lifting at the edge, stopping the brute force floods, the cross-site neighbor infections, the blacklisted IPs, stuff your plugins literally have zero visibility into. But the host cannot stop someone from logging in if they magically guess your terrible, weak admin password. Right? That is exactly where your application-level plugins, your 2FA, your login limits, become your last vital line of defense. I actually really love this quote from Chrust, the director of business development at AHosting. He says, "Security you can't see is the kind that works. Isolation, a firewall, and a clean IP do their job silently, long before any plugin would have a chance to react." It just hits the nail on the head. The best security infrastructure is like an invisible outer wall and a deep moat. It takes the pressure off your application, effortlessly swatting away massive automated threats in the background so you can just focus on running your business. So, armed with all this info, how do you actually find the right fortress for your specific setup? Do you need to go out and drop hundreds of dollars on some massive dedicated server? Honestly, for most typical WordPress sites, blogs, business brochures, small online stores, an isolated shared hosting environment running KGFS is incredibly secure and totally sufficient. It basically gives you VPS-style separation. But say you're running a massive store, a huge membership site, or something needing strict compliance, then yeah, stepping up to a virtual private server or a fully dedicated server adds that full OS-level container or physical machine for maximum isolation.
All right, the absolute key takeaway here is to take this back to your provider. Here's a quick, super practical 4-step checklist to evaluate your host's server-level security right now. 1. Check if every account runs in an isolated environment like KGFS. 2. Verify they have an active server firewall that drops scanner traffic before PHP loads. 3. Confirm you get a dedicated IP address so you weren't paying the price for a noisy neighbor's spam. And 4, ensure they enforce current, actively supported PHP versions. If your host gives you a no on any of these, you are leaving your foundation totally up to chance. Now hold on, we can't let you entirely off the hook here. While your host provides those thick, impenetrable outer walls, it is still 100% your job to put strong locks on the interior doors. You've got to update your WordPress core, your plugins, and your themes the minute those updates drop. You absolutely need to enable two-factor authentication on all admin accounts. Oh, and don't just deactivate plugins you aren't using, delete them entirely, because they can still be exploited. And finally, always keep tested off-site backups that you actually know how to restore. As we've seen, the absolute most dangerous threats in 2026 strike way below the application layer. They target the server directly, and that's a space where only a properly configured hosting environment can save you. So I want to leave you with this to chew on. Is your host actually protecting you at the server level, or are they just crossing their fingers, leaving the heavy lifting to your plugins and hoping for the best? Run through that checklist, dig into your current setup, and make absolutely sure your foundation is as rock solid as the site you've built on top of it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.